everyone, and welcome to the second edition of Deep Pockets MLB Division Previews. Today, we will be covering the National League West and going over all the teams, players, division odds, total wins, everything that you need to know about this season in the National League Division. We're going to give it all to you. I'm your host, Alexi, a.k.a. Deep Pockets. We covered the National League Central already, but today we're digging deeper to the National League West, and I'm here with my co-host and friend, Big Sean, at Cardinal Nation Junkie on X. Sean, thanks for coming on today. I'm looking forward to discussing more baseball with you and giving some of our thoughts on this division. How are you doing today? Welcome.
What's up, man? I'm excited for another preview of the Nl West. I think it's probably maybe the most controversial, maybe the most popular, maybe the most interesting division going, especially in the National League. I'm excited to talk about it. I got some takes. I'm ready to fire off. Are you excited for opening day here? And so we're recording on March 2nd. So in 16 days in Tokyo, you excited to watch our two least favorite teams, the Cubs and the Dodgers, fight it out a week before baseball season?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It'll be Tuesday and Wednesday building up to March Madness, of course, and then the week before baseball season actually starts. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching baseball again, especially meaningful games. I don't know if I'm looking forward to watching the Dodgers and the Cubs. As you said, we aren't big fans of them. But hey, it's baseball. I don't know if I'll wake up at 5 a.m, but being a big baseball fan, I might. I think I'm actually, I'll probably tune into those games. Baseball will be back, so I have to look forward to that.
Yeah, I don't know about waking up at 5 a.m. to watch the Cubs and the Dodgers and watch all the love fest for the Asian players and all these free agents they sign and yada yada. But maybe they'll both look terrible, and I'll have some excitement going into the start of the year.
That wouldn't be the worst thing. And actually, I have it pulled up here. It's on my ticker. It's basically where I look in the morning when I wake up every day. The MLB opening day 2025 countdown. We are 24 days, 9 hours, 29 minutes, and 35 seconds away from opening day. Yes, that's me being excited. I have that posted like everywhere around me. Like that's how much of a fanatic I am. So let's go. I'm ready for it. Opening day is getting closer and closer. We're in spring training right now. So we're seeing some teams. Don't really worry too much about spring training. I think we're just getting into baseball. But yeah, looking forward to everything. And I'm excited to discuss all these teams. And of course, probably one of the more hated teams in baseball. That'll be the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Man, I'm already seeing tons of reports and fans online freaking out about their star player going 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts in their 8 at-bats. Everyone needs to relax. We're all excited. Everyone relax. Okay, the season's almost here. We'll have better content to talk about. So I'm excited, and let's jump into it.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Sean. And I'm looking forward to this show. Now, we're going to kick it off with the worst team in the division. That's the Colorado Rockies. I think we can agree, and probably everybody who's a baseball fan, that this is one of the worst franchises in baseball in terms of making decisions and doing good things because they don't do it. And I have to start this off right off the bat, okay? Chris Bryant, terrible signing. I've been saying it since the guy was a rookie. I thought he was overrated. I think he has the ugliest swing in baseball. Sean, you can back me up on all of this. But they gave him in 2022 a 7-year, $182 million contract. Now, I need to go back and look at how many games he's actually played through this contract, but I'm just going to start out with this on the show for the Colorado Rockies. Sean, does Chris Bryant play in 28 and a half games this year? What would you take? Over under 28 and a half games. Is Chris Bryant
20 and a half?
Do it.
Okay. All my life savings, the death being pointed at Earth, 28 and a half. I'm taking the under Chris Bryant 2025. What do you think?
Honestly, as much as I hate to say it, because I want to see a player like Chris Bryant play, but yeah, I would take the under. There's absolutely no way I would take any kind of player prop with this guy. Anything with an over, 100% I would not take it. So yeah, Chris Bryant, horrible contract. And the Rockies did it. I don't even know what they were doing, to be honest. I really don't know what they were thinking, if they were going to just turn their direction after Nolan Arenado left or what. But we move into 2025. This is the Colorado Rockies, and their over-under is 59.5
Oh, that's
wins.
gross, man.
This is going to be an ugly year. I don't really have a lot of good things to say about them. Sean, I'll let you start with, where do you feel like this franchise is right now? Is there anything positive looking ahead to this team?
Well, I'll tell you this. They've had a losing record since 2018. They haven't won a playoff game since 2009, which I believe Todd Helton was their starting first baseman at that time. Every prospect that's come up that we all thought could have been something, Brendan Rodgers, Nolan Jones, all these pitchers, Herman Marquez, which it's funny. I used to think he was one of the most valuable trade chips in all of baseball, but man, he fell off a cliff and got injured. This is the worst combination of a team not willing to spend, a terrible culture, a ballpark that can't support a real baseball team with real fans, a real organization. This is probably right there with the Marlins and the Pirates and some others of the worst franchise in the entire league. I think 59 is a great number because who the heck knows in baseball, but this team has been on a downward spiral for a while. I don't even think I can see them getting to 60 wins. So there's not much left to say. We can dive more into the players, but is there anything that I'm missing? Is there something about this team that you can find a bright spot, or anything that you think could happen that could turn the fates of this whole organization around this year?
Not at all. This is a bottom of the barrel Major League Baseball team. I think they're going to really struggle to get to 60 wins. I think that number is probably right about where it should be. But if I were betting it, I would take the under, because this is a really competitive National League West. And you've got arguably the best team ever in that division. So I don't know how they're going to find many wins with the Dodgers. This team is pathetic on all ends. I pulled up, and credit to FanGraphs here, they have their ZiPS projections. This was published a little earlier than maybe we would have liked. It's back in November, so take this somewhat with a grain of salt. But for the most part, they post a lot of great information, and it's accurate to their ZiP projections and kind of what a player will do this season. But man, I can't think of one positive from this team. Chris Bryant, if healthy, is their best player, but you can't even count on him. I mentioned he can't even play a full season. In his 3 years with the Rockies, he's played 37 games in 2024, 80 games in 2023, and 42 in 2022. He's not doing it. And it starts with him. He's the guy getting paid the most on this roster. And the pitching, I don't even want to start with the pitching. You combined bad pitching to a hitter-friendly ballpark. It's a recipe for disaster, okay? There's nothing good about this pitching. The bullpen is awful. And that's why when we play in this ballpark at Coors Field, you can never, and in my opinion, you can really never take an under, especially with this Colorado Rockies pitching. So there's not a lot of good things I can say about this team. I've always waited for Ryan McMahon to get going. He was a high top prospect. People expected to be good. I think he's just been mediocre to above average at times, depending on where he's playing in the season. His best numbers are at home for the most part. But yeah, there's not a lot of good things I have to say about this Rockies team. I think they weren't built right. There's a lot of mediocrity around this team. I think this is going to be one of, if not the worst teams in baseball in 2025.
It's funny. We play fantasy baseball. It's almost a cheat code. Sometimes you look at the rosters for the Rockies and you say, okay, which guy is going to kind of be that cheat code where I can always start him for Rockies home games. I can draft him late in my fantasy draft, and every Rockies home series, he's going to hit a home run. He's going to get some hits. There is not one player on this team that I want on my fantasy team. How sad is that? This is a cheat code of a ballpark, a cheat code of an offensive environment, and there's not one player that I think can even be average in MLB this year. I was looking at Ezekiel Tovar, who was probably their best player last year, led the team in WAR last year. I think his on-base percentage was 295. He led off for them with an OBP under 300 in Coors Field. I mean, I don't have a lot to say positive about the offense. And to me, the offense is the shining toy of this team. The pitching is even worse. I don't see how this team gets to 60 wins this year.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I'm looking here. I pulled up RotoChamp, but this is also not official. They usually are pretty accurate on lineups, but take it, again, with a little bit of a grain of salt because of injuries, and who knows if there's an up-and-coming player out of spring training. But just looking here, we've got Brenton Doyle, I should say, Ryan McMahon, Tovar, Bryant, Tagula, Jones, Estrada, Beck, and Stallings. I mean, I know, Sean, you've been a little high on Nolan Jones in yours. You like his power. Do you think Nolan Jones can have any kind of excitement around this team this year? Do you have anything that you would want to say about Nolan Jones? I know you've always in the past been pretty high.
I think he's the guy, similar to when we talked about the Cardinals. I think he's the guy. He's the Jordan Walker player that has disappointed every expectation that you've had on him. This has to be the year he shows something if he's going to turn into any sort of middle-of-the-lineup guy in MLB. I am very worried that that's not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. Look at these projections here. You have I don't see one player with a slugging percentage over 450 projected in Colorado. That is just I can't believe how bad this team's been. All these guys were supposed to be, league average, better, decent hitters. McMahon, Bryant, Jones. I don't think Nolan Jones is in a play. He's the type of guy where you trade him to the Rays, you trade him to the Dodgers in 2 years, and all of a sudden there's some breakout. But here in this lineup, I don't think that's there, and I don't think he's going to be a part of any success of this lineup. I think it's going to be gross the entire season.
Yeah, I'm looking at the rotation. You mentioned Nolan Jones and the offense, but looking at the rotation, we can rip the offense all we want, but man, this is a terrible pitching staff. Marquez, which, I mean, maybe if he left Coors, he could be decent, but we've even seen his splits on the road haven't been great, which is weird to say. Feltner, Freeland, he never has got it going really as a top prospect. And Senzatella, and of course, former Cardinal Austin Gomber. There's just nothing, man. There's nothing to the pitching staff that I am excited about. The bullpen is probably a dumpster fire. Just looking at like the Zips projections, it looks like Kinley, Peralta, Vodnik, Lawrence, Criswell, just a lot of average to even below average guys in the bullpen there. I think maybe Tovar is probably the more exciting player, like who can do something. But even that, it's like if Tovar is your best guy, there's obviously some troubles with your organization. So yeah, if I was going to do any kind of bets with this Colorado Rockies team, I'd be absolutely taking the under for their season total wins. And obviously there's no value in betting like the division. Like there's just nothing. There's nothing there with it. So yeah, I'm really down on this Rockies team this year. I think they're going to be hard to watch, especially for the fans. But if you want to, try to make some money, that could be a good team to fade in the regular season of Major League Baseball. They're going to win some games here and there. It's the nature of baseball, but it won't be a lot. It'll, in my opinion, be under that 59.5 mark.
And I'll say this. We'll end on this. Let me throw a hot take at you here, Alexi. The Colorado Rockies. So in 2024, every pitcher with 20 or more innings, this is not home and road, this is the entire team. Every single pitcher in 2024 with 20 or more innings had an ERA above 4. That's hard to do out of pure luck, first of all. The pitching's not going to hold up. I just looked today, MLB farm system rankings. They're 23rd in farm system rankings with nothing to show for it. Their best pitching prospect with ETA of 2025 to pitch this year. He had a 5.86 ERA last year in AAA with almost 40 innings. He's gonna. They have nothing. They have about 6 pitchers that are gonna have 5+ ERAs. I am currently on watch. I am on watch of possibly maybe this Rockies team and this pitching staff allowing the most runs in MLB history. I'm on watch. I looked it up today. The record of most runs ever allowed in a season, post 1962 modern day baseball, was in 1996 with the Tigers. They allowed 1,103 runs in a season, okay, which is 6.8 runs a game. I think this Rockies staff, that's the record I'm going to be watching all year. I'm going to be watching Chris Bryant over-under games, and I'm going to see how many fantasy stars can I get in my lineup facing this Rockies pitching at Coors Field this year. That's all I'm going to care about this entire season. The rest of the team, I don't even know if I can watch these games, to be honest.
Yeah. And another thing you could do to target, like if you're a sports bettor and if you know of a bad team, another way you could target the Rockies, and there will probably be a lot of high totals, but you can bet team total overs against those teams. So what that means is, if you don't know, most people should, but basically the sports books will set a line. So let's just say 4.5 runs for the Dodgers to score 4.5 runs in that game. Just at some point, they can score 5. You'll win your bet if you take the over. They score less than 4, you're going to lose your bet, of course. But a way to do it, I think, especially on the road against the Rockies, because when you're on the road, you're going to bat all 9 times. You're guaranteed. When you're at home, it's very likely that you could bat eight times only, because you could have the lead in the 9th inning. So those are little things to look at going into 2025 for how bad this pitching staff is. I think that's going to be something to look for, and how interesting the books will be setting these team totals for a lot of these away teams when they go on the road to Coors, because I've seen it as high as 7.5, 8.5, and that's pretty crazy. It'll be really interesting to see what the Dodgers run line is, or team total over under is when they play in Coors.
Absolutely. It's so funny when you see the line, whenever it's in Coors, 9.5 over under, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5. I've seen 14.5. This year, I think it's going to sit there like the entire year every time they're at home.
No, great point. I love that.
The only thing that's going to stop them is their own crappy lineup that's
yes.
going to take them down. But the opponent team total, I think, is the way to go.
Yep. And I won't say too much else about the Rockies. I think we've given them enough conversation than they deserve. But you mentioned the pitching prospect coming up. They did draft Charlie Condon last season. He was the 3rd overall pick for the Colorado Rockies. His ETA is about 2026, so we probably won't see him in 25, but possibly next year. He is a outfielder / third baseman, depending on where they're going to fit him in. I'm not sure, but pretty highly rated. He's in the top 30 of MLB prospects. Looks like he's at number 29 on the current list, which you can take that again with a grain of salt. You never know if these guys are going to pan out or not, but something that maybe some Rockies fans could look forward to is him.
And last thing. Sorry, we're almost hammering on the Rockies here too much, but one, how sad is it? You trade a guy like Nolan Arenado, you basically have nothing to show for it on this current roster. You have a guy, Austin Gomber, lucky to be a number 5 on a major league roster. Best thing about Austin Gomber is his wife and her TikToks. Okay, she's making good content with her kids on TikTok. Okay, that's the best thing you got out of your Nolan Arenado trade. I mean, what kind of organization is this? And I'll say this. This is the last thing I'll say. Great ballpark. I've been there. Beautiful area. Love it down there in Denver. It's a great area. We had a great time there. The fans are really cool, fun fans. I like the music they play at the stadium. It's a great ballpark. I'm sorry to see Charlie Blackmon leave. I actually really like Charlie Blackmon. They had a good team a few years ago, but this team is a mess. The roster is a mess, and the entire organization is a mess right now.
Yep, it really is. And I think we got to give one quick shout out here. And Sean, I'm going to give you the credit because you wrote this down in our little Google share sheets that we have to bounce ideas off each other. But probably the most exciting thing about this team, Jeffrey Yan. If you haven't seen him, and I did see that the other day in an Instagram reel on MLB.com, this guy just jumps around and goes crazy after he strikes somebody out. And as you said, Sean, that might be the most exciting thing about this Rockies team this year. That's hilarious. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah, he hasn't played in MLB yet. So he's currently on the Rockies in spring training. Apparently, he just struck out the side, I think, on, was that Friday? So it looks like he's going to break the bullpen out of camp. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. I mean, poor guy. I don't think he's going to be some lockdown reliever here in major leagues. I'm excited to see if that type of celebrating is going to continue or what. I don't know. He goes up against the Dodgers, strikes a guy out, and starts jumping and fist pumping around. I'm interested to see how that works out, but I'm excited to see it. I hope he breaks camp with the Rockies.
Yep, that'll be probably their best thing about the team if he can make it. In conclusion, we don't like the Rockies this year. We think this is going to be a rough season in Colorado, unfortunately for their fans. Hopefully the organization can turn it around, but I would totally bet the under 59.5 wins. I haven't officially put the bet in yet, but if it is something I'm going to bet, it's the Rockies under in total wins. Good stuff on the Colorado Rockies. Best of luck to them and their fans this year in what should be hard to watch at times. Okay, we move to the San Diego Padres. San Diego Padres, as you see here, over-under wins at 85.5. They are projected about second or third. They're like right there with the Diamondbacks in the division. You see the division odds at the bottom. That's, again, I'll mention that. Those are the best odds across all sports books that I gathered today, and I put it there. So you see them at 10-1 to win the division. I don't know, Sean. I'm a little worried about this bottom, man. Manny Machado, he's up there in age. How much more can he give? Xander Bogaerts, I think that's another bad contract in baseball. It almost felt like forced, like they had to do something when they signed him. This is a little funny to see. Jason Hayward is in the projected lineup for this team. I wasn't really sure about that. I'm looking at RotoChamp. I don't know if that's accurate, Sean, but that is what it shows here in their lineup is Jason Hayward starting in the outfield. So, yeah. I am not a huge fan of this team. I do love Jackson Merrill. I think he's a up-and-coming stud. We saw him last year. He had an incredible season. He can steal bases. He can hit for power, plays really good defense in center. So I think there's a lot of excitement around Jackson Merrill. Fun to watch. And, of course, I think the pitching is good, too. You've got a guy like Dylan Cease and Michael King atop the rotation. Sean, what do you feel about the San Diego Padres there? Is this a team that can get you into the playoffs and make some noise, or is this a team that you're a little worried about coming into 2025?
So it's crazy. I'll say this. There's one team in the NL West that I love this year. I think they're going to be my most bet team in terms of team win totals. I think and then I have one team in the NL West this year that I hate the most compared to consensus, and that team is the San Diego Padres. I think it's funny. I looked it up today. When they had Juan Soto in 2023, the whole season, they won 82 games. When they didn't have him last year, they won 93 games. What changed? A lot changed. Did you know that Jerickson Profar led their team in OPS last year? So that's a big loss for them. The ascension of Michael King, Tatis kind of had that big rebound year last year, which I know Padres fans like to see. But there's some things I'm worried about. One, I don't think they have a catcher or really any sort of good defense up the middle. I think Bogaerts he did not look good last year. I don't think he's going to come into the year with, those older players scare me. I don't think Manny Machado is going to have some breakout year this year. They're only 32, both Bogaerts and Machado, so I don't want to rule them completely out yet. But I can really see that Machado and Bogaerts could kind of fall off a cliff here in the next couple of years, and this could be the year that happens. They have a lot of good players. But I don't see a path for them to, if something goes wrong, that they're going to make up for a lot of things. My biggest thing was they lost Profar. They lost all their other utility depth on their team. So David Peralta, they lost. Han-Sung Kim, who was huge depth for them for 2 seasons. He had a great year a couple years ago. He was solid, above-average player last year. Donovan Solano, above-average hitter last year. He's gone. Cronenworth's going to regress a little bit. And they completely lost pretty much their best hitter last year, Jerickson Profar. So Tatis is could be as good as advertised. I think he's going to be good. He's in a corner outfield spot, though, so he's going to have to really hit to really make an impact overall on this team day to day. They really do not have a catcher. They have Elias Diaz they got from Colorado. He really projects to be pretty much nothing on that team right now. Now, Luis Arraez, we've talked about together. He's actually one of our favorite hitters in terms of modern-day approach. I think he approaches the plate much like older hitters. I mean, he's the closest thing nowadays that you'll ever get to a high average hitter that we used to see, just 10, 20, 30 years ago. But even he kind of took a step back last year. His OPS was down over 100 points last year. Still a high average guy. But if he's only going to get you 6 home runs, 20 doubles, OPS 750 or less, I don't think that offense is going to be enough, even with the pitching that is there. I mean, one pitching injury, Tatis goes down. This team does not have enough to win 86, 87 games as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, good points all around. I like the players on this team. I do love to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. I hope he can stay fully healthy. He is something the league needs. They need a guy like Tatis being the excitement that he is. Watch the home runs. I like that. I'm all for a guy who sits there and pimps a home run when you crush one. I love it. I also should say the same thing. Pitchers should be able to celebrate when they strike somebody out. I love it. I love that kind of stuff. It brings a lot of excitement to the game. So, yeah, love Fernando Tatis. One of my favorite players, like Sean just mentioned, Luis Arraez. Love the way he approaches the plate. And this is a question for you, Sean, while we're on this YouTube channel today to discuss the National League West Division.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if you can guess, because you should know how good of a hitter Luis Arraez is, and maybe we can teach some of our listeners about him. This guy doesn't strike out. And that is what impresses me the most, because in this day of Major League Baseball, these guys go up there swinging. They strike out over 100 to 150 times a game. Some of the worst guys strike out about 200 in the season, in a season. Luis Arraez, Sean, what do you think is the most times in a season he has struck out? I have the numbers right here.
That's a great question.
Crazy to see, but
great question.
What's the most times he struck out in a season?
So let's see. Probably had almost 700 plate appearances or 720 plate appearances. Probably one of those years in Miami or last season. So I'm gonna say maybe 56, which is really low. Maybe 60, 56 to 60, something like that is my guess.
Okay, good guess. He has never struck out more than 48 times in a season.
Oh, wow.
In 2021, he played 121 games, and he struck out 48 times. But what's more impressive is in 2022 and in 2023 and in 2024, he played over 143 games. So he played double the amount of games he did and 20 more games than the year in 2021. Luis Arraez struck out 43 times in 2022, 34 times in 2023, and 29 in 150 games last year. Just 29 times he struck out. I think that's incredible. I think that should be talked about a lot more. And yes, Luis Arraez isn't going to be the guy who's going to hit home runs. He's just not that kind of hitter. He's going to make contact. He's going to make you work. And he's going to get on base for the most part. And that's what I love about him. He needs to be talked about more. Incredible player. I love his approach. And I love that he doesn't strike out, because that is something that has really bothered me while watching games this season. Is strikeouts, fantasy guys just going up there in big situations and not coming through because they're looking for the home run. So, yeah, huge credit to Luis Arraez. I love this player. I think any team would be lucky to have him. And I think he's a perfect fit for the Padres, because he's the leadoff guy. He sets the table. And everyone behind him should be able to get him in. Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, etc. So I love this guy. He's one of my favorite players in baseball.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if they're going to have a good year, they're going to need him. So I am worried about the aging veterans. Do you think Bogarts and Machado can turn it on this year and not get MVP votes, but play to a point where you're going to want them in fantasy? They're going to hit 20, 30 home runs, lead this Padres team to some type of success, try to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think I think I'm most worried about Bogarts, and I think it's been kind of trending in this direction. I also don't think the park fits him well. San Diego being more of a pitcher-friendly park, I think he has struggled a little bit. He had a much hitter-friendly park in Fenway. The monster. He hit quite a bit of home runs there and had a lot more success.
Yeah.
I do worry about that as part of the reason why he regresses. Now, that's not the only reason playing in a certain ballpark, but when you're playing half your games there in a season, it's definitely going to make some kind of impact. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. I feel like Machado has adjusted well. He seems to be a guy who's still going to hit or come close to 30 home runs. He's got that power. He's been fun to watch over the years too. I hope Machado can continue to stay healthy and do well for his contract. But yeah, I'd say if I had to pick a player between those two, I would definitely be more concerned about Bogarts. I didn't love the contract and the deal when it was made. And I was really surprised to see it. I'm like, what? This is what they're throwing at Bogarts, and they're giving him this many years. I was completely shocked when I saw that happen a couple years ago. But yeah, I think Machado is far and away the guy I trust more between those two. And then regarding like MVP odds, yeah, you're looking here at the bottom. I thought that was interesting to see the players who have odds to win the MVP. Tatis Jr., 9-1 odds to win. He is, of course, you got Ohtani there. We'll talk about the Dodgers when we get closer. But Sean, do you think there's any value in betting Fernando Tatis Jr. MVP odds at 9-1?
I do for a couple reasons. One, I think if the Padres are going to be good, he has to be kind of the middle of the order bat that they need. Two, I think he's kind of one of those players that plays with tons of emotion, has so much every single day, goes all out every single day. I think he has a chance to be a very good defensive outfielder. I think it's funny. We watch him play, and it seems like it's not like he takes plays off, but it seems like sometimes there's a gear he could go above 100%, and he goes there sometimes. But sometimes I watch, and he's not there. So I wonder, a full year healthy in the outfield, not center field. Jackson Merrill is covering in center field, great defensive center fielder. He's there in a corner all year long. He has decent offense around him. This could be his best offensive year. He had a huge rebound year last year. If he can cut down on the strikeouts, I could see him explode. And if the Padres win 90, 92, 95 games, he's going to be the reason why. And if something happened to Ohtani and a couple of these other stars, I don't see why Tatis couldn't be, a favorite for the MVP.
Yep, good points all around. And I probably would agree. If a full season of Tatis, he could absolutely put up the numbers for an MVP year. I do want to shift a little bit into the rotation. We see here It is projected as Dylan Cease leading the way with Michael King, Yu Darvish, new addition Nick Pivetta, and Kyle Hart. Again, I don't know if that's accurate there with the number 5. That usually could go either way depending on how spring training works. But yeah, I think this is a good rotation. You've got a really good pitcher in Dylan Cease. Michael King, I feel like he took a huge step last year. Now, but the biggest question mark here, and I think there's been a little bit, even if it's to the slightest amount of rumors for Dylan Cease potentially to get traded during the season.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. He's a free agent next year. I think it really just depends, and it's easy to say, but where San Diego stands in the standings come the trade deadline. If they're, right around 500, if they're not playing to the potential they wanted to be playing this year, I think he could absolutely be a trade target for a team. I think San Diego would be willing to get rid of him. Sean, do you have any concerns? Is there a possibility, or do you think San Diego would shop Dylan Cease if the right offer came up?
I do. I think they've been known to kind of mix into trades here recently. If the teams go in a certain direction, they're going to really lean into that direction. I think if they start out smoking hot, if they're leading this division by the end of May, beginning of June, I don't think they're going to trade Dylan Cease. But let's say they're 2 games under 500, middle of June. Great offer for Dylan Cease. I could easily see them doing that. That would just make total sense to me. My question I'll throw back at you is, instead of the top of this rotation, I just don't see the depth. I don't see the depth in the rotation or the position players that they had last year. I don't see, Nick Pivetta. I mean, he's a decent number 4, but if they were to trade Dylan Cease during the season, I don't see a way for them to put out a starting 5 rotation that would be able to, compete for the division, especially against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think the depth is a huge concern if it comes to, if one of those guys gets injured, who's going to step up in one of their places? And another question mark, man, as much as we like to say, Darvish pitched 81 and 2/3 innings last season.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But surprisingly, he has stayed healthy for a lot of his contract. There's been a couple of years where he pitched and got injured at times, but from 2021 to 2023, he pitched 166 innings, 194 and 136. So, it may not be entirely what you want to see from a guy like Darvish, but he's 38 now. He's getting up there in age. You have to wonder how much more concerning is it for Darvish for a full season? Can you really trust him all year long? Yep. I think he's a really good pitcher. I think he's had a phenomenal Major League Baseball career for coming over and doing what he's done, because some of these guys don't pan out when they come over from Japan after their years in Japan and adjusting to the Major League game. But I do give credit to Darvish. I think he's really adjusted well, and he's kept hitters questioning what's coming next. I think that's made him such a good pitcher. I just have a little bit of concern about him staying healthy for a full season. So
true.
Totally right.
Your two guys, Darvish, almost 40 years old. That's your number 3. Your number 2 was a relief pitcher 2 years ago. Biggest workload of his career last year. I don't know. I don't think they're going to get to 90 wins. I don't think they're going to get to 86 wins. So, this is probably going to be my biggest team that I fade here in the NL West are these San Diego Padres.
And then in their bullpen, I believe Suarez is still there atop their bullpen. He's a nice piece. He had a pretty good year last season. I was looking up his numbers here, just kind of seeing what it showed. But yeah, he is projected to be the closer. He's up there. They have Adam back. Yep. Mm-hmm. Estrada, Morhone, Reynolds. Yeah, some nice pitchers. And then I forgot about Matsui. They brought in that pitcher for, I think it was last year, was his first season with San Diego. Matsui started really well, but he kind of fell off a little bit once teams started to adjust to him. Be interesting to see how he does in that bullpen with San Diego too.
Yeah, I think if they're going to have success this year, you're going to find it from all these guys that are going to step up on the offense. Yeah, I think Bogarts has to have a decent year. Cronenworth has to stay kind of what he did last year. You need Jackson Merrill not to take a step back, and then the bullpen's going to be the biggest thing. I think these guys have to win these games late in the year. It's funny. The team 2 years ago with Soto, they lost all those one-run games. They had all this weird luck that would happen to them to where they would lose a game at the end of the game. Last year, kind of all their luck flipped. They won over 90 games. Their bullpen was dominant. They had all these kind of lucky things happen. All their depth guys kind of put up one of their better years. This year, it's kind of what's going to happen. Are they going to have kind of more luck into the games? Are they going to be able to survive the whole season, or are they going to falter? But I think this bullpen is going to be a huge reason whether they have success or not.
And I was just looking it up. Now, this is according to DraftKings. Some books may offer a different line. I wasn't able to do enough research into this before the show today, but I'm looking on DraftKings, and to make the playoffs, I thought this was interesting. So, yes, to make the playoffs, the San Diego Padres are plus 110, which they're right there. Diamondbacks have better odds. Brewers are right there, plus 125, and then the Giants plus 205. So, there are 6 teams who make it in each league. So 6 in the National League, 6 in the American League. I think that might be a little telling. The books having a plus sign in front of the San Diego Padres, they're not minus 110 or minus 115. They're plus 110. I think I'm with you, Sean. I like the offense. I think the pitching can be really good. But if some of these guys take a little bit of a step back, I think in a very, again, competitive division, I think I would take the under here. I'm not sure I like 86.5. I think getting to 87, 88, a lot of things have to go right with this team. And I don't see that happening. So I'm with you. I'm on the under here. Padres over for 85.5 wins.
Is there any guy you are really looking to target in fantasy other than Tatis for this Padres team here?
Well, I love Jackson Merrill. I think he does do about what he did last year. Maybe he regresses just a tiny bit, but I think he is legit. Like, I think he was super fun to watch. I think his numbers are projected to do well. He steals bases.
Great defender in center. Defender in center.
He's a guy that I would absolutely target. I've never been a fan of targeting Manny Machado. I don't know why. I don't like it in terms of fantasy. So I'd probably be off the Machado. But yeah, the two guys that I would target, in my opinion, are Jackson Merrill. I think he's legit. He's going to be a top couple round guy. I don't know his projections. I haven't looked at fantasy too much, but also Michael King. I think he's legit. He gets strikeouts.
Yeah.
He got 201 last year, I believe. And I think full season again, I think he could get well over 200 strikeouts if he can stay healthy. So yes, I am targeting Michael King and Jackson Merrill. I think they both have good to really good years for this Padres team.
Yeah. And both of them coming off their best years. So we'll see if they can keep that going into this year.
Yeah, I'll be really interested. I know I mentioned it before when we were talking about the lineup. Who knows what it's really going to be? They can do a lot of platooning, but Jason Hayward, I'll be interested to see how many at-bats he gets with this Padres team this year, because look, one injury happens and Jason Hayward's your everyday left or right fielder, wherever they're going to place him in that outfield. So, All right, awesome. Well, good stuff on the Padres. I think we talked enough about them. We both like the under, and also take a look at that. Will they make the playoff odds? I don't think that looks really good. Plus 110. I mean, if you're really high on the Padres, that could be something good you take, because you're getting some plus money with it. You're not paying any juice. All right. Well, let's move on to the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team who went out and made a splash in the offseason, and that was for Corbin Burnes. They signed him to a big deal to boost the rotation, which is already pretty damn good. You got Zach Gallen in there. He's been awesome. Believe Eduardo Rodriguez is still there with them too. This is going to be a much improved rotation. Just looking at it, Corbin Burnes, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Brandon Pfaadt. That's awesome. I think that's a really, really solid 1 through 5. There's really not many holes. And I think they're all placed perfectly in that rotation. So This is actually one of my favorite teams in the National League West. It's hard to say when you've got the Dodgers that this can be your favorite team to do anything, but this is my personal favorite team that I think should and could have a big year. Oh, I almost forgot. They added Josh Naylor, the big home run bopper. Now he strikes out about close to 100 times a game, but with that power, hitter-friendly ballpark, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll setting the table for him. Yeah, I'm very high on this Diamondbacks team. I have them finishing in second place behind the Dodgers, and I'm going to be all over their season total wins. I like the over 86.5. I think they get to about 88, 89, if not 90. And a big part of it is that rotation. So, yes, love this Diamondbacks team. Sean, coming into 2025, how do you feel about this Arizona team? Let's dig a little bit deeper into them.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny. I saw Corbin Burnes sign there, and I said to myself, what? And I realized I think he's a Phoenix resident, so they kind of got a hometown discount there. And the second I saw that, I was shocked. I went on, Roster Resource. I went on MLB Depth Chart, and I looked at their rotation, and this is maybe one of the best rotations in a while. I think it's the best rotation in Major League Baseball right now. You have Burnes at the top, Zach Gallen. You have even their number 6, number 7 guys, even Rin Nelson, who to me, like you look at a team like the Cardinals, that would be a number 3 for us. A guy like Eduardo Rodriguez, a guy like Jordan Montgomery might not even start the year in the starting rotation. That's how good of a rotation that they have right now. And it's funny. We're going to get to the Giants, and I really like their rotation as well. But this Diamondbacks team has the offense to back it up. They have the offense, they have the defense, they have a solid core. They have young guys that are probably going to take a step up this year. I really like Jordan Lawler there, that top 20s prospect that looks like him and Perdomo are going to split time at shortstop for most of the year. Both two great defensive players. Oh my God, if Lawler takes off and Corbin Carroll has a year he had 2 years ago, this could be a very dangerous team. You're talking somebody that could compete right there for the Dodgers for the division. You have a couple role guys that really need to step up. A guy like Alec Thomas, who was a big prospect 2 or 3 years ago. He's kind of just leveled off into this number 7, number 8 hole hitter, but great defender, going to play every day in center. Jake McCarthy, another guy, role player guy, that'll be right there. But Gabby Moreno, good catcher. You've got Josh Naylor. You've got a lot of guys that can hit. You've got guys that can play good defense. You've got a lineup that's going to be pretty deep with the best rotation in baseball and a bullpen that I think is pretty darn good. I don't unless we see injuries, unless we see something that we're not. Some guys take a step back. Then I don't see any reason why this team couldn't go out and win like 90, 92, even 95 games this season. I completely agree with you on the Diamondbacks this year.
And the more I look at this roster and the lineup and the projected rotation, even the bullpen, something I got to give a shout out. We haven't talked a lot about bullpen, and I don't think the Padres and Rockies, especially the Rockies, don't have anything worth talking about in the bullpen for sure. They don't. But man, Justin Martinez, look out for him. If you didn't remember him from last year, he's 23 years old from the Dominican Republic. He had a 2.48 ERA last season and 72 2/3 innings, 91 strikeouts. I think he's going to take a big step in the right direction this year. He's a strikeout guy. He's going to be a good part of that bullpen to close out games when they need to, especially for how good that rotation is. I mean, that's what you need to do. You have a rotation. They're going to set the table. If you get out to a lead, you just have to have the guys, of course, hold the game for you, and you're gonna stack up some wins. So AJ Puck, another guy who I think has a lot of high ceiling. I think you've seen kind of both sides of it. You've seen him have his rough times, but you've also seen his ceiling and how good he can really be. So I think AJ Puck over there in the setup role could be nice. I can't continue. Thompson, another guy in that bullpen. They're projected, and this was back in December that this article was released on Fangraphs. They're projected about a 4.8 WAR in the bullpen, so it's something you'd love to see. But man, love the addition of Naylor. I think that's going to help. Love Corbin Burns. The Diamondbacks did perfect in the offseason. They did what they needed. They filled the roles. I think they have a lot of good role players too that can help. So yeah, love this Diamondbacks team. I can't keep saying it enough.
I agree. I think the thing that scared me, do you think Ketel Marte will stay about the production he had last year, or do you think he'll come back to earth a little bit?
Yeah, I'm looking at his numbers right now. I think he's also another good hitter, like outside of like let's see, I'm pulling up his numbers here as I'm talking here about Ketel Marte. Ketel Marte last year, he hit 292. So for this day of baseball, great average, 292. If you're just under 300, I consider that good at this point. And he hit, my gosh, 36 home runs, 95 RBIs. Yeah, I don't see this guy slowing down. He plays a lot of games. He doesn't get injured a lot. In 2022, he played 137, 23, 150, and last season 136. He had a brief injury, but on base guy, man, 372 on base, slugs 560, 932 OPS. I think he's going to have another year. He's 31. He's right there in his prime. I think Ketel Marte starts out well and has the big season. And I also think Corbin Carroll bounces back. He had that phenomenal rookie season, stole a lot of bases, got on base, hit for power. I think Corbin Carroll's good enough, and he's a high enough prospect that people were high on anyway, that he's going to be good. He's going to have a good year. I think he may not have that same rookie season he had, but I think it'll be much better than last season. I think that's something the Diamondbacks need to see if they want to get to that 87, 88 wins and get into the playoffs. They need a big year from Corbin Carroll. I think they'll get that. I think he's going to bounce back from last season.
And I love they don't have a Shohei Ohtani, but I love the floors of all these guys. Lourdes Gurriel, Jake McCarthy, Eugenio Suarez, Gabby Moreno, Perdomo at short, great defender. Alec Thomas in center, great defender. Bare minimum, all these guys are going to be great defenders and can hit about league average. If any of them take the next step, this is going to be a fantastic offense, which I think is exciting. I can't say enough. I'm probably too high on them. There's probably a couple guys that aren't going to reach quite what we're thinking, but I couldn't be higher on this D-backs team. Yep. Is there any other holes that you could see potentially kind of taking us down here and our expectations for the D-backs this year?
Yeah. I mean, I think the easy thing to say is if you're going to get a worse Marte, if he kind of slides back, if Josh Naylor kind of loses some power, I think there could be some concerns there, but there's not a lot of holes, man. I love Moreno. I think that was a great addition a couple years ago. He's a good catcher. I think his numbers offensively are pretty good. Eugenio Suarez, I feel like he bounced back from a couple of rough seasons he had. He's in a hitter-friendly ballpark. I think all these guys who they have can give you power. That's why on the projected lineup here, you have guys over 20 home runs. You got Corbin Carroll projected at 22, Ketel Marte 26, Naylor 22, Suarez 24. Gurriel, who knows? He could put up 20. I'm not saying he's going to, but probably more of a high teens home run hitter. I think probably the only thing is just the depth. If maybe they lose some guys, I'm looking at their bench right now just to see what their bench is. I know and I don't think it's a huge loss at all, but losing Jock Peterson, maybe that plays a little bit of a role in some way. I thought he was a good platoon guy. But they do still have on their bench Alec Thomas. I think he's a nice part of that. Randall Grichuk, Sean, your favorite player, looks like he's still on their bench. Garrett Hampson looks like he's projected to be on their 40-man and at least
another great defender.
Another great defender. So, yeah, I think if anything, maybe just the depth at times. I think there might be, if there's some injuries that happen, you have to worry about like Randall Grichuk getting more at bats than he needs. And then same thing with Garrett Hampson. Like those are just not starters in the MLB. But okay, fine guys for the bench. The rotation is what is, I think, setting it up the most for me, though. I think just 1 through 5, there's not a hole in that rotation. So, yeah, that's just a little bit more about why I like the D-backs. And then one other thing I forgot to mention about Corbin Carroll as I was talking about him, if people don't remember how good of a rookie season he had, and that's why I do expect him to bounce back here this year. In 2023, he had a total of 161 hits. He hit for 25 home runs, and he had 54 stolen bases. This is a guy who steals well, and he had 35 last year, which is surprising. That's like, 19 in difference. But on base percentage, man, what a difference. 362 in 23, 322 in 24. If he can just get in the middle there for 25, I think a big year is coming for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, we're gonna call this prediction of the year. Corbin MVP winner in the NL. Corbin Cy Young winner in the NL. D-backs win 103 games. Go ahead, mark it in your calendar.
Hey, you gotta talk like that sometimes. This is probably the easiest prediction we can make is the Dodgers winning the division. But does everyone really want to hear that? Isn't everybody talking about that? Major League Baseball, MLB Network is probably talking about the Dodgers winning the division.
Yeah.
ESPN, probably all they talk about is Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. This is the Deep Pockets Major League Baseball preview. How about we talk about the Diamondbacks winning the division?
Yeah.
Will we sound stupid? Maybe. Maybe we will. But at the end of the day, let's take some shots. 10-1 odds, Arizona winning the division. Let's do it. Why not? Arizona, let's do it. Come on.
All right, I'll ask you right now before we get into the Dodgers. I'll give you Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Snell. You give me Burns, Galen, and Fant, or whatever, or Fott, whoever D-backs number 3 you want. You go into a postseason series, NLCS series. Is it even? Who do you got in that?
Give me the Diamondbacks. Give me the Diamondbacks.
I kind of agree.
Now, if you were going to ask me over the course of 162, it's easily the Diamondbacks because those pitchers have stayed healthy. It's as easy to say as they've stayed healthy. Glasnow can't stay healthy, and we'll get more into the Dodgers as we break it down. But I want to take sustainable guys. I want to take guys who can pitch a full 162. Yeah, they might miss a couple starts here and there, but they're going to give you the innings.
And we're not even talking about Jordan Montgomery. The guy was a stud 2 years ago. He had a terrible year last year, signed late in spring training last year, had a horrible year. I know he only pitched like 130 innings. He had his worst year out of the last like 3 or 4 years. But he's their number 5. He might even start the year in the bullpen. That's a guy who would be the Cardinals' number 1 right now. I mean, him and Sonny Gray would be right there. That's crazy to me that this is how deep that rotation is right now.
We forgot about Jordan Montgomery. That just tells you. And he had a horrible season last year. Don't get us wrong. A 6.23 ERA. But, I mean, outside of that, he's always been a serviceable pitcher in the majors. I mean, if you're going to throw him at the back end of your rotation or in the bullpen, I don't think many people are going to complain about that. So, yes, great point there, Sean, about Jordan Montgomery. Wow, that's incredible. And then I have to ask you this, because we have the Cy Young odds here at the bottom. Sean, if you had to take Corbin Burns here, we got Corbin Burns at 14-1 to win the Cy Young. And as you see the ticker there, we've got Gallen at 25-1. And then I think that's like the two pitchers. Yeah, I think there was maybe a couple other ones that had longer shots to win. But between those two, who do you think is more valuable to take? Do you think it is Corbin Burnes atop the rotation at 14-1, or do you think there's more value with Zach Gallen at 25-1 because of, we know what he is and he's pitching in Arizona quite a bit?
Yeah, I actually like Zach Gallen this year a lot. I love Zach Gallen this year. I think this is kind of the year he becomes one of the five best pitchers in the National League this year. I think this is the year he goes out there, earns his stripe. I think the last couple of years he's had to be that number one. When they went to the World Series 2 years ago, he kind of put the whole rotation on his shoulder a little bit. This year, he just slides right into that number two role, right behind Corbin Burnes. He kind of fits that. I kind of like how I compare it to that Mariners rotation where you have a guy like Luis Castillo, but then you have a guy like Logan Gilbert who just can kind of sit there, get tons of strikeouts. Team's still expected to win every time he goes out. I really like Zach Gallen this year. But I'll tell you even a better person that I like is Brandon Pfaadt at pretty long odds. I think the last time I looked, it was over like plus 6,000. We could take a look here live on air, but I really like him to have a good year this year. He's going to be either the 4 or the 5 this year in that rotation. And to me, he has the stuff and the mindset to go out and pitch 200 innings, get a ton of strikeouts. I think he's going to be very dominant in the postseason when this really good team gets there. That's something I'm going to sprinkle as we get later into the year. We're going to probably see Brandon Pfaadt as maybe one of the 5 best pitchers in the National League in and of itself, let alone Burnes and Gallen in the same rotation. That's just something I think could easily happen.
And for anyone that watches this, yeah, Brandon Pfaadt at the end of the day probably won't win the Cy Young, but take what Sean just said. If you play fantasy baseball, that could be a guy you draft. He has a lot of upside. Strikeout percentage is pretty high. Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt could be a nice little target, sleeper pick in the drafts that might go unnoticed and gets buried in that Arizona rotation. So good points all around for the rotation and the just division of the Arizona Diamondbacks as a whole. And I pulled up PECOTA here. Again, doesn't mean it's accurate, but they are pretty spot on for a lot of these odds. They have Arizona at 87 wins, which would put them over the number at 86.5, which is what the books are offering across the board. So I just thought that was interesting. 87, they're about 10 games over 500 here. But like Sean and I are saying, we like them above that, maybe like 88, 89, maybe even 90 games if things go really their way. All right. Well, Sean, I think we gave enough conversation about the Diamondbacks. Anything else you want to discuss about them before we close out on that one and move to the next team?
No, I really like Brandon Pfaadt and Corbin Carroll to have big years this year.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, good on the Diamondbacks. So let's move into the San Francisco Giants. San Francisco Giants come into the season with a new face to their franchise. That'll be Willy Adames. Willy Adames starts out with them in San Francisco at shortstop, coming off his probably career year in Milwaukee. They also added future Hall of Famer Justin Verlander to the rotation. So an interesting piece to add there, looking at the roster. I think there are some nice pieces to it, but it's a roster that I'm not really particularly high on. Sean, you might think a little bit differently from me. I think the biggest problem for me is this offense. But Sean, I'll let you start with the Giants here. Tell me how you feel about them going into 2025.
Well, I feel like the Giants kind of sit in the same place that I find our Cardinals in, which is every year you kind of don't know what you're going to get. Everything's hard to predict. They have 3, 4, 5, 6 players that could take the next step, could fall off the cliff and completely splash into nothing. They project to be about 500 almost every year. Sometimes, just like a few years back, they go out and win 107 games, or the last 2 years where they're 500 or worse. And I don't really know how to predict these Giants teams going forward. I think it's so funny that they kind of fall into the same type of team every single year. They don't have that power slugger. They're still under the Barry Bonds curse of no one has hit 30 home runs since Bonds left the Giants. Their pitching, the big thing the last couple of years is they have just found all these diamonds in the rough with the pitching. You look at like a Carlos Rodon, you look at Logan Webb coming up, you look at other guys. They seem to have the development that's going to take maybe mid to below average pitchers, turn them into real MLB prospects, which is really good to see. I do like their rotation. But the offense, I am worried about it. I think that Matt Chapman kind of proved a lot of his non-believers wrong last year. I was kind of down on Matt Chapman a lot last couple of years. Willy Adames, I really liked last year going to his contract year. I thought that power was going to be there for Milwaukee. But now getting the big contract, going to San Francisco with that hitting development team, I don't know if I like to see another explosion like that this year. I don't think he's going to hit 25, 30 home runs. He's okay defender. He is not one of the best shortstops in the league defensively, which I think could hurt them. So I'm kind of beating around the bush. I don't know. I think 80 is a great number for wins. They're so unpredictable year in and year out. You look at a guy like Heliot Ramos, who kind of broke out last year, hit a bunch of home runs last year, kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't on much of any, prospect lists. But is that going to – sure, they'll probably have another guy like that this year. There's probably another guy out there, in Double-A for the Giants who is going to come up, hit a bunch of home runs, maybe explode this year, while Heliot Ramos probably drops off a cliff, knowing the Giants. I mean, that's pretty much what they've been the last couple of years. They've missed on all these free agents. They haven't been able to sign Judge. They haven't been able to sign Correa. Especially they haven't been able to sign Ohtani. They haven't made a big splash offensively. I like their rotation. I think it has a lot of holes. I think it has a lot of potential holes when things go wrong. I worry about Justin Verlander's age. I worry about Robbie Ray's health. I worry about Jordan Hicks's health and his performance and his walk rate this year. He had a decent year last year, but you look at when they started to put the full workload on him, what happened to him last season. It's kind of one of those things where when things go right, I think this team could compete for a wild card, I don't know about the division, but they could go into the year and go into the break hoping for maybe a playoff spot, or I could see this team kind of completely falling off. A couple injuries would totally derail this team. So if I'm betting it, I love the number 80. This is kind of my least conviction of any of the teams in the NL West this year. I'd love to root for the Giants to compete and maybe somehow compete for the division against the Dodgers. But if I'm going to take any over on the season wins, it's going to be the Diamondbacks, and it's not going to be the Giants. I don't see any way that the Giants are the path to really getting to 85 plus wins is not there. So I don't know what to do at the number at 80, but I have my worries about the Giants, and I see some positives in their team, but I don't have a set answer for you. Is there something that you're leaning one way or the other in terms of how you feel season outlook wise?
Well, I just pulled up one of my favorite pitchers on this team and in this division and all across baseball, because he stays healthy. He gets you innings. He gets you strikeouts. He is probably one of the more consistent pitchers. You know what you're going to get from him. That's Logan Webb. I pulled up his numbers here on MLB.com. Just look at that right there. Since we're going to say 2020 was a wash, obviously there was 60 games that year. 2019, he only pitched in a couple of those games. But in his full seasons with the Giants, 148 innings, 192, 216, 204. Look at that. The guy just gives you innings. And not just that, he's usually doing pretty damn well. He's not a high walk guy. Most walks in his season was 50. Actually, last year, it's pretty surprising to see his walks were up compared to previous seasons. But look at the strikeout numbers, 163, 194, 172. I love Logan Webb. He's what makes this rotation go. I just don't know if that's enough. I love any kind of like prop bets. If people like betting prop bets on a guy like a pitcher, I think Logan Webb probably is your more trustworthy guy. And now that I'm saying all this, I'll probably get hurt on opening day. But I mean, Sean, you've had him in fantasy. I've had him in fantasy baseball. This guy just does it. He comes out there, he gets you the 6-7 innings that you need. He's usually going to hold you over and get you strikeouts. He's just super consistent. One of the best guys to watch, in my opinion. So if he has a big year, I think the Giants rotation, I think it really goes to how Logan Webb does. Now you add in Justin Verlander. I mean, at this point, how effective can he really be? We all know the effectiveness he was last year with Houston. It wasn't pretty. He was hurt a lot of the year. So I think you're going to just kind of get like the meh Verlander. You'll probably get some good games, but you'll probably get some really off games too. Biggest question mark, Robbie Ray. Can the guy stay healthy? We know his potential. We know how good he can be. I worry about Robbie Ray. So there's as much as the rotation on paper looks nice and it looks like it could be good, I think there are some question marks to Robbie Ray and Justin Verlander. Even Jordan Hicks, if he's projected to be in that rotation, can he sustain a full season? So far, we saw no. He started out really well last year, but he fell off a cliff. We all know about that. He couldn't, get the innings that he needed. He was only going 3 or 4 innings, if that. A lot of walks, pretty wild too. So my concern does go into that rotation too. Overall, I'm betting the under on this Giants team. I haven't officially made this bet yet, but if I'm looking at this from all the data that I circled here, I think this is a team that's about 500, which is what you're going to get if you get them at 81-81. But I think they fall just short of that. And I think it's because of how good the other teams in this division are, like the Padres, like the Dodgers, and of course the Diamondbacks, who we just talked about. So I'm more down on this Giants team. I don't think the offense is going to do enough, even with the addition of Willy Adames.
Yeah, the one thing I absolutely loved in spring training was seeing Verlander. Have you seen all those clips? They were Hayden Bursong, the guy who might start the year in the rotation, could be a rookie this year, as long as Kyle Harrison, the rookie last year. Verlander was kind of sitting there, watched all their bullpens. I watched, it was like a 2-minute clip. Whenever they would change pitches, he would come up to them, discuss grips, discuss kind of what they're doing. I kind of love that stuff. I eat that stuff up. I think Justin Verlander has a lot to teach some of these young guys. But like you said, no pitcher in baseball is safe from injury. There is not one durable pitcher out there. I will tell you right now, just when you think you're safe, you're not safe in terms of pitching in Major League Baseball today. So Logan Webb is the closest thing we've got to someone who's going to be out there day to day and start 200 innings and start 30 games. But, oh my God, if he goes down, then yeah, I'm out on the Giants.
Yeah, that would not be a pretty thing for this Giants team. I guess if we're going to look, I'm going to look for some kind of positive from this team. I do like the addition of Adames. I think the same thing I'll say is, how does he do? Now he's in that new contract. He's in a much different ballpark. We all know how tough it is to hit in San Francisco. Just a big park to try to hit home runs. So we'll see how he does there. But another guy that I want to mention is Tyler Fitzgerald. We saw him have a big season last year.
Yeah, breakout year last year.
Yeah, he had, what was the streak? Do you remember, Sean? There was like a streak of games that the guy hit home runs. It was like something crazy. It was like 5 or 6 games. Or was it?
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, something crazy where the guy just continued to hit home runs game after game. And if you see here, I pulled up some of the ZIP projections on this Fangraphs website. He's projected at about 447 at-bats, 107 hits, 17 home runs, 16 RBIs. On base percentage, not great. Looks like projected on my end here is about 295, 399 slug. But he's a nice guy at the end of that, bottom of that lineup, who number 7 hitter. I don't think that's something that you should be worried about. It. I will say another person in this lineup that I'll say I don't know why they have to find him and why can't they find somewhere else. Wilmer Flores never really appealed to me. I think he's a very mediocre player in baseball. Like, he's more of a bench guy to me, and it seems like he might be in a lot of their lineups during the season, of course, depending on platooning. The Giants seem to be a analytical heavy team. And I just don't love that offense, but I do like Tyler Fitzgerald. I do like the addition of Willy Adames. And I think Lamont Wade Jr. Can also, he's a good on-base guy. If he can set the lineup and get on base, maybe there will be some promise there. And, of course, Matt Chapman, too.
Yeah, I think it goes overstated. All the metrics say that it's there. I don't watch enough Giants games to really know, but everyone says that Patrick Bailey is maybe the best defensive catcher going right now in MLB, which us being such a big fan of the Cardinals and people who really saw how much of an impact that Yadier Molina had on games and on pitchers and everything from inning 1 to 9. I think it could be a bigger impact than we realize, even if Patrick Bailey's bat's not there. I love having a good catcher there. It might matter less now with as we enter kind of the ABS era of pitch tracking. I know, the framing and some of the stuff that catchers are normally used to doing might not be as important now, but going into this year, I love catcher defense. I love defense up the middle. I always look at that. Speaking of, not to go off in a tangent, but the Jung-Hoo Lee, who they signed last year coming into the year, do you see any way that he makes an impact and kind of turns into that middle of the lineup bat that they really thought he was going to be going into last year, who, he had the injury, but to me, it was pretty clear that maybe he wasn't ready for the role that they signed him to be, got the big contract. I don't know if he's going to be much of anything great defender out there in center, but do you see him kind of turning the bat on a little bit this year and stepping up from where he was last year?
Yeah, I think he could be a guy who steps up in this lineup. They have him projected about number 3 hitter, 501 at-bats. More of an on-base guy. Looks like he's about 346 or so on base projected. OPS in the 763. Not a power guy, so I guess they're trying to get him on base for that middle of the order, like Matt Chapman and Ramos, who are highly regarded to hit home runs. Matt Chapman projected at 27, Ramos about 22. Yeah, I think Lee could have made some adjustments in the offseason, and if he has that improvement and can be a big part of that lineup, maybe this is a different Giants team. Maybe he can be enough with Adames and Chapman, being the power guy there to lead the Giants to more wins than we're thinking, at least in 2025. So I think Lee could be a little bit better than last year. I'm not sure if he can take a huge step and be like this phenomenal guy and everyone's talking about him in a way, but I think he'll be okay and enough to be good for this team this year.
Yeah, you give me a couple of weeks with a hot Heliot Ramos. Maybe Lee steps into it. Maybe Adames and Chapman are hitting home runs. Lamont Wade Jr. on base guy. I could put a picture together where this offense kind of turns it on and the rotation takes off, but I don't know. Man,
I'm looking at the relievers there, and I think we need to quickly just mention, what about that fall off from Duvall? I mean, the guy was incredible for I think 2 or 3 years, if that. And the strikeouts were there. Guys were just not getting on base. He started out last year really, really tough and eventually got sent down to the minors, optioned to the minors. And now he's kind of sitting in that bullpen. He's not the closer anymore, at least projected. Yeah. Maybe they'll do some kind of committee in a way. They have Walker projected there. One of the Rogers brothers, I believe the other one got traded. But Duvall, the bullpen, I don't mind it. What happened with Duvall? Do you have any quick thoughts on did hitters adjust to him or did he lose something? What was
this is a bigger topic, I think, just in the scheme of baseball instead of just the Giants. But what we do to these pitchers now, we take pitchers that were great, college guys, high school guys, and we say, okay, all that matters, velocity. All that matters, just making yourself hard to hit. And what happens is all these guys, if they get bitten by where they can't locate, which tends to happen to these guys with high velocity and high movement, where they're doing stuff to their pitches that they can't really control goes down, walk rates go up. The second that happens, some of these guys could just completely fall off because they can never find what they had that made them successful in the first place. And I think it's really frustrating, actually. You can see it with a couple guys. It's funny. Emmanuel Clase started really hot when he started with Cleveland, then completely fell off a cliff. And then last year he's great again. And it's you see, we talk about relievers sometimes. It didn't used to have this much turnover in how good relievers are, how fast they can, relievers can break. It's kind of scary that when once a guy kind of gets pushed into becoming a reliever, they push him to be high velocity, high movement. We're going to send you out there. You're going to get 3 batters. Just go crazy with it. Do whatever you can do. And that's their whole job now. There's no emphasis on control anymore in the bullpen. There's no emphasis on any sort of long-term planning in the bullpen. And I think that is what bit Camilo Duvall last year. I think if he can't lower that walk rate, I think he's going to just be a pretty average player. He's got nasty stuff, but if he's going to walk, a guy every single time he's out there, I don't think the Giants can utilize him this year.
Yeah, fair point. It was definitely weird to see the drop off from him last season. Maybe he rebounds a bit and makes that bullpen a little better. So in conclusion, I think we're both in agreement. Giants under total wins. If things go their way, pitching stays healthy, offense kind of steps up. Maybe they can get right over 80, 81, 82. But yeah, I think I'm looking more as an underplay here for the Giants. All right. Well, now we move to the Los Angeles Dodgers, the reigning World Series champions. We will have a lot to talk about here because of how dominant they are. And, when a team wins a World Series, at least from what I've seen over the years, these teams usually get comfortable. They're okay. We won a championship. Let's just kind of let's relax. Let's just relax. We'll have a good year again. We'll get back to the playoffs. But our main priority isn't winning at all. Well, Los Angeles Dodgers are saying, nope, we're going to reload and we're going to just stock up on all the players. We're going to do it all. And the Dodgers did that this offseason. They didn't only go out and get Blake Snell. They got, and you're going to laugh at me here, but Michael Conforto could be starting and probably some of these teams' best hitters. If he was on the Miami Marlins, he'd probably be their best player. Colorado Rockies arguably could be their best player. He's going to be like their 8th or 9th worst hitter, but he's going to be good. Like that's a good player to have in your freaking lineup. Like, are you kidding me? Tommy Edman, amazing addition last season. Incredible. Like, say what you want. That was a big piece of that run they made into the playoffs. I mean, this is just a stacked team. You added, of course, the other guy, Sasaki from Japan. You've got Blake Snell, Yamamoto. I mean, I could go on and on about this Dodgers team. It sucks to say, but they're not scared to spend money. They're going to continue to do it. They want to win more championships. I mean, what can you really say? Sean, is there anything bad to say about this Dodgers team? I mean, 2025, this team's incredible.
I know. It's rare that you find a team and an organization that has the perfect fit, the perfect combination of a huge, smart, analytically driven front office that can develop players, that can take failing players on other teams, turn them into stars. You see Justin Turner, you see a couple other guys that the Dodgers have brought in, a couple of veteran guys, and then a team that can take their highly drafted players, churn them out year after year into solid starting everyday players, combined with probably the biggest financial might that we've ever seen in baseball. That is what came together the last 2 years with this Dodger team. Plus, they're in LA. They have the culture that's going to bring the Japanese guys, the American guys. They have maybe the best culture in baseball right now. You even look at some of their players. It's even hard to hate their players. Shohei Ohtani is one of the funnest players to watch in all of baseball. Mookie Betts, one of the most likable players in all of baseball. Freddie Freeman, maybe the most likable player in all of baseball. It's just so rare in sports that you see such a combination like that, and it's hard to see right now as a fan of another team. It scares me. I don't think that my Cardinals are going to be competing with the Dodgers anytime soon, but it's rare that you see that, and it's kind of culminated into this incredible team. This might be the best team that they've had kind of on this last 5, 10, 15-year run they've been rare on. To see that in pro sports we have a team like this that's so dominant. And I wanted to ask you, do you think this is good for the league, bad for the league? What's your overall consensus feeling on just what the Dodgers have done this offseason and the last couple off seasons, bringing in so many guys, kind of taking over the league by storm. This one team dominating free agency. Do you feel this is good for the league? Is it prompted you to feel any sort of different about how MLB should operate, or any sort of deeper feelings on the league with the Dodgers recently? Is there any other thoughts you have, kind of big picture?
That's a good question, because you can look at it a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, the Dodgers continue to spend money and they want to win. And that should be every organization's goal, is to win. The Marlins, I will rip them when we start talking about the National League East preview, but the Marlins, don't tell me they're a small market team, okay? Don't tell me that they can't keep players and try to win every year, because they can do that. They just decide not to. They're a horrible, horrible organization. And like I said, I will get more into that when we talk about the National League East. But there are teams out there who can absolutely spend money. Obviously, you can't spend the money the Dodgers do. The revenue they bring in, the market they are in, we all know it. The Dodgers are the number one, okay? We know it. But no, in a way, I think people will say, oh, this sucks for baseball. They're just paying other players. Well, guess what? You as an owner should want to step up and do what you can to make your team better every single year to win a World Series. All these great teams the Dodgers have had, and this is not even guaranteeing they're going to win a World Series. Look at all these other great teams they've had over the years. There's times they didn't even get to a World Series. The year 2023 didn't get to the World Series. 22, 21. I think the last time they had got there was in 20, and they won that against the Rays in the 60-game season. But they had great teams. Maybe they weren't as loaded as they are now, but they had some really good teams, and everybody was like, oh, the Dodgers are spending this much money and doing all this. So maybe Major League Baseball needs to change something. Maybe, a lot of people like to see them get to some kind of salary cap or something. Maybe that needs to be a thing. But how about this? How about we propose teams have to spend a certain amount of money in the offseason?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about we have the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals? How about they go out there and have to spend a minimum amount of money to be competitive? Like, I'm tired of seeing these owners. They're billionaires. They don't spend money. The Rockies are a perfect example. Yeah, they paid Chris Bryant, but it was a horrible contract. And outside of that, they're not doing anything. So I'm just so tired of seeing they're spending money and they're loading up on these guys. We should just automatically hate them because of that. No, you should hate your own team because your owner doesn't want to go out there and win every year. And that's what I hate about the St. Louis Cardinals right now, is their owner is so complacent with selling bobbleheads and getting people into the stands. But he can't do that now. Fans are turning on him. And I think that's a lot of what's happening in baseball, is these teams are turning on their owners. And who's going to keep printing money? The Los Angeles Dodgers. And you can say this. I'm saying this as a fan that I don't like the Dodgers. I will not root for them. But they're doing what they want to do, and that's winning. And you can't deny that. Like, it's just the nature of what I love to do. I love to win. I'm going to do everything I can to win, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's at work, whether it's at the gym, something as small as making my day better. I want to win every opportunity I have, and the Dodgers are doing that.
Yeah, you have Hal Steinbrenner, the owner of not just probably the richest team in baseball, but one of the richest teams in all of professional sports, the Yankees, complaining about how much money the Dodgers are spending in free agency. Go miss me with that. Are you kidding me? How about you step up and start spending some money? Then it would be a little more competitive. At least the markets would be a little more competitive. I completely agree. I think the big thing that the league needs, the big thing that I think I've been pushing for, is they need a salary floor. I think it's time. You can't have the Miami Marlins spending $39 million on their entire roster while the Dodgers are out here spending over $300 million on theirs.
100%.
They can't be in the same league. This isn't Europe, where the Premier League teams are in the same league as. I mean, there's no other platform of pro sports where you have a team that's spending that much on their team and another team spending that little on their team. That's just not a thing in pro sports, and I think it's not the Dodgers' problem. There's all these tax, salary cap taxes that they're going to have to pay this year because they're spending more than any other team. But they've said they're willing to do that And that's what fans want to see. We want you to put together these great teams, spend in free agency. We don't want to see guys like Jordan Montgomery not on a team going into spring training. That's not what any baseball fan wants. We want all these teams to spend and try to compete. If you have to rebuild, retool in the season, those aren't the teams that we're talking about here. There needs to be some sort of, it seems like modern day baseball, it used to be 8, 9, 12 teams every single year. You go into the year, you compete, you sign free agents. Now it's 1 or 2 teams, spend all the money, get all the free agents. And then there's like about maybe 6 teams that, okay, we're going to win 84 games and we're going to take our shot. No, I hate seeing that in the offseason. It seems like that is such a culture shift in baseball ownership. And they say, oh, just because the playoffs have a bit of randomness about them, instead of wanting to win 92 games, we're just going to try to win 84 games and take our chances. I hate that attitude. And it's been something that I think has been the downfall of not just the Cardinals, but many of the teams, kind of the mid-market teams in MLB.
Yep, absolutely. And I pulled up the Fangraphs, the ranked payroll. Here we have the Dodgers at number 1 at that ridiculous $389 million.
Yep.
I mean, perfect example. I'm just going to scroll down. Miami, $70 million. Are you kidding me? $70 million is what their committed payroll is right now. Athletics aren't any better, 74. The White Sox are at 81. Tampa Bay at 90. I mean, it's just a joke. It is. And let me reiterate that I'm not saying these teams need to spend the amount of money the Dodgers are. They're just not going to be able to do it, and they're not going to do it. But there's got to be something that Major League Baseball fixes to where these teams are spending something to be a lot more competitive than what they've been. So it is ridiculous. I think there's a lot of things that need to change. But no, I don't blame the Dodgers at all. They're doing what they need to, and they want to continue winning. And how can you hate organization who wants to win? So
100%.
Yeah, a little bit of this is a great question. That was a great topic, and I'm sure we will talk a lot about that in the future. But yeah, that was a great question, Sean. Thanks for bringing that up. All in all, the Dodgers are loaded. I don't think people care to talk about enough of what the Dodgers are going to be this year because everybody probably knows.
Yeah.
I mean, they re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. I love that. He's incredible. A great signing for them to bring him back. I thought that was the perfect fit there in LA. They brought in Conforto, as I mentioned, another just great addition. You've got Will Smith, you got Max Muncy, and the 3 studs. Ohtani, who's probably going to pitch again this year. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman's there. It's just top to bottom. This is a really good team. And we talked about the Diamondbacks depth, and as we were kind of being silly in a way, but we had to give something different here on this MLB preview. But that rotation is ridiculous. Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Sasaki. I mean, Ohtani's eventually going to pitch. You still have Clayton Kershaw who's probably going to make some starts throughout the year. The amount of depth they have is incredible. 2 or 3 of those guys could get hurt, and they still have a really full and good rotation that can win them big games. They brought in Tanner Scott. That bullpen's going to be even better. Tanner Scott was a big acquisition last year for the Padres at the deadline. And what the Dodgers do, they went out and signed him in the offseason. Again, getting better in all aspects. So I can go on and on. Kirby Yates was another addition. They brought in Blake Trinan. Dustin May's there if he stays healthy. This is Michael Kopech. I know he's injured right now, but man, there's just the amount of players in depth they have. 103 is the over-under. I wouldn't want to bet the under. They probably could win 100 or 102 games, and that's still a hell of a season for the Dodgers. But over under 103, I'd probably say they get over. It might be like 105, 106. I just, with how stacked this roster is, I can't take the under. So I would be looking to take the over if anything. Sean, is there an under you'd play here? Is it just take the over and you hope that it's
a great point. We've agreed so much on most of the NL West. I might disagree with you, and the only reason is this whole team, the whole entire regular season is going to be pointed at the postseason. And so I don't think they're going to push any guys to go into the 6th, 7th, 8th innings. I don't think the Dodgers are just going to completely set their sights on the postseason. You're going to see a lot of breaks. You're going to see guys taking days off. You're going to see a lot of phantom IL stints, especially with the pitchers. I think Glasnow, just like last year and Kershaw the year before, they'll have an IL stint maybe for 10, 20, 30 days where you're like, oh, it's a shoulder, but then they come back and they're totally fine, which that's okay. The only thing I ask, though, is as of right now, before Ohtani comes back, Tony Gonsolin's going to be their number 5, so he's going to make at least probably 5 starts here. They're saying Ohtani set to come back maybe even by the end of May, sometime in May, June. Do you think that with the injuries they've had the last couple of years, Dustin May, Gavin Stone hurt again, do you think there is some crack in the armor at the back end of that rotation, or do you think it's just not going to matter at all?
Honestly, I don't think so. I really don't. As much as I would like to say it probably will, I think there's just too much depth. I really do. Too much depth there. You've got the top studs at the top of the rotation and, back end of the bullpen. You don't even need those guys to go 6-7 innings. You can let them go 5 or almost 6 and bring in the bullpen with what they have. So there's just way too much depth that I'm completely I can't rule out anything there for how good they can be. So yeah, I truly don't see any holes in this team. It's just top to bottom, they're stacked.
Yeah, the only thing I hope for is I hope the Diamondbacks or the Padres can push the Dodgers in that division. I hope one of them can get above 90 wins, push them into September to make sure all these guys are starting. I want to see Tyler Glasnow pitch 160, 180 innings. I want him to be forced to do that. I really am excited to see the end of this division. I hope the Dodgers don't just win the division by 15 games. I think that would kind of make everything less fun around the game. So I really hope that we see all these guys get pushed. I hope Freeman and Betts can start almost every game. I was shocked last year when they said Mookie Betts was going to start at shortstop. I thought that was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And he goes out, he has a great year, he's great defensively, and they win the World Series. So, man, it's hard to find a lot of bad things to say about the Dodgers. It'd be fun to be a Dodgers fan right now. It's almost similar to being a freaking Chiefs fan right now. It's hard to really poke a lot of holes in what they've done. You really can't say enough. I would love to bet the under and root for it most of the year, just because it's hard to just watch a team dominate like that. But I'd be pretty afraid.
Yep, it is a tough way to go, but Dodgers are loaded and they're arguably they are the favorite to get to the World Series again and of course win it. So if you like the odds right now, you might want to jump on it because they probably won't get any better than right now as the season goes along. All right, good stuff there. My only other thing I was going to mention about the Dodgers, outside of all the additions they made, was just the returning guys. Ohtani, I think we all know about him. The MVP odds, he's the favorite. I don't usually like to bet unless I'm super there's no chance he doesn't win. There's obviously a chance he doesn't because of the injury potential to him. I don't like to go with guys back-to-back years. I think there's always potential for another player. So according to the odds and the MVP odds for the players in the National League West, I think Betts has some good value. 13-1 with the potential he has. Mm-hmm. He's that lead or bat second. He's going to have power. He's going to be hitting in front of people, getting on base or driving people in at the bottom of that order. When the Dodgers have bottom hitters getting up, I think Mookie Betts is another guy who has some value to win the MVP. Freddie Freeman, 35-1. You could say maybe he does too, but I think he'd have to have a huge, crazy year to get to that point. But yeah, just a couple things to add on there for those two guys.
Man, solid players too. Just rock solid players. It's almost like you wish that their star players had some sort of hole to their game. Maybe like an Adam Dunn type where all they do is one thing. No. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani. Even Freddie Freeman will steal some bases. It's crazy. They're all good defensively. Teoscar Hernandez. The only thing I worry about is the bottom of the order. I could see having some struggles during the year. We saw Max Muncy have a tough year. Will Smith actually had one of his worst years last year. He had his worst professional year last year. It sounds like that Andy Pages or that guy they signed from Asia, that Kim, who may start at second if they put Edman in center. I could see maybe their 6, 7, 8, 9 being a bit of a hole, but I mean, to have 3, 4 MVP candidates in your offense, it's just going to be so hard. It's going to be hard to compete with the Dodgers, any of these teams this year.
No doubt about that. I think that's probably as certain as it can be. We saw their odds, the best odds right now for them to win the division, minus 450.
Wow.
Heaviest odds out there. I mean, they're pretty much a lock unless things just completely don't go their way, which is probably not going to happen. But anyway, Dodgers season preview. They start out with the Cubs. As we mentioned at the beginning, they will begin with the Cubs in Japan. I believe Yamamoto is already the set starter up against Imanaga. So should be some fun baseball there to kick off the MLB season. And then, of course, if you like, I know we didn't really talk about the actual odds of winning the World Series, but their odds to win the World Series, I believe, is like 3-1 right now. And then the National League pennant, they could also have some decent odds there if you like to take the plus money and you're just all in on the Dodgers. You might as well just bet that right now because I don't know if your odds are going to get any better. As we close out today, I like to leave it with a division sleeper. I know we already talked about the Diamondbacks a lot. That's my sleeper, and I think you're probably going to be in agreement with me. And at the end of the day, I truly do believe the Dodgers are going to win this division. But if I want to go outside the box and take a team, I'm going to definitely be on the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks, in my opinion, have the best chance out of any other team in this division to make a run at it and at least maybe win it, but probably not. That would be my team. Sean, is there anyone else you would consider, or is it pretty much the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, Diamondbacks 100% for me. I am low on the Padres. I'm worried about Machado. I'm worried about Bogarts. I'm worried about the depth on that team. If you're really digging deep, give me the Giants. Give me the Giants. I think that rotation could be okay. I mean, Justin Verlander, even after the year when he had his Tommy John, he came back. He won the Cy Young. So, I mean, he's a physical freak. He's a Hall of Fame pitcher. We'll see. Him and Robbie Ray and Logan Webb could be something in that rotation. You never know. I'm low on the Padres, but I do love the Diamondbacks this year. I think if I'm going to bet anything futures in the entire National League, I'm looking right at the Diamondbacks.
I'm with you, man. We might have to go in together on some things with the D-backs. Should be a fun season there in Arizona. All right. Well, Sean, as I close this out, is there anything that you want to mention? Or is there anything maybe we forgot to talk about, or just any topic you want to throw out there before we close this out?
I think we covered a lot. The big thing is that I've noticed going from our NL Central review to now, I think the talent in the NL West is so much better. This is such a better division than the NL Central. I say that as a fan. I say that as a baseball fan as a whole, as a Cardinal fan. I think the National League winner is going to come out of this NL West, and we'll see what happens this year.
I like that. And I'm looking really quick. I'm on DraftKings again. I don't know. Other books may have better odds, but DraftKings currently 3-1 for the Dodgers to win the World Series. Mm-hmm. And then behind them, it is the Diamondbacks 25-1. So if you're a person who likes, to take teams as a long shot, or just, the randomness of the playoffs, because there is absolutely that in Major League Baseball, Diamondbacks 25-1. Some pretty good odds, in my opinion, if they can at least get there and maybe take down the Dodgers, as hard as that would be to happen. But yeah, great preview here with the National League West. Thank you, Sean, for coming on. It's always great to come in and talk baseball. We are days away, I think, 2.5 weeks or so, 3 weeks from opening day. And I'm looking really forward to it. We have fantasy baseball draft starting here soon. I'm going to get more information about that as I sent this morning to the group text. But yeah, I can't wait for the season to start, even how dominant the Dodgers are. I think it'll still be a fun season to watch all these teams and, of course, all the players.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching today. This is going to be recorded throughout the season. I'm going to have recordings and previews for all the other Major League Baseball divisions. We're going to do the National League East next, so stay tuned. We will have an East preview coming out next week. And if you like what you're seeing, give us a follow, like our page, and, of course, subscribe, because we are going to be here all throughout the season. giving our best takes, our hottest takes that Sean likes to do during the season. We'll be doing it all in 2025 for this Major League Baseball season. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And if you like it, give us a comment too. Comment on the video. Let us know if you'd like to see something different in a video. If there's something you don't like, let us know too. There's some good feedback that we can get to make these even better. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day when you watch this.